You're listening to the English podcast That Way Experience. Me llamo David Palencia y aunque soy español, he ayudado a miles de personas a hablar inglés de verdad. Si no tienes tiempo, quieres transformarte en bilingüe y aprender con nativos a tu ritmo, recuerda que puedes unirte a mi curso a distancia That Way Tribe. El enlace es thatwaytribe.com, thatwaytribe.com. And now, the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of That Way Experience. David Valencia here, ready to help you learn English, ready to show you the truth, as always, and only the truth. So in these episodes, this is number 82. I'm going to answer a question from Jose. He lives in Ceuta, and he said, he suspendido el B1 3 veces. El writing y el speaking me salen genial, pero el listening y el reading saco menos de un nivel principiante a 2. ¿Cómo podría aprobar el examen de una vez y sacar bien las 4 partes? So how to take the B1 exam, how to nail the 4 skills of the language, and not only the speaking and the writing. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Right, so the first thing, Jose, I must say, congratulations, because you're one of a kind. You're a very special person. Normally, people get really bad speaking, bad writing, bad listening, but then you've got good speaking and good writing, so that's something to be proud of. So congratulations, that's good. And that means that you're doing something right. But at the same time, it is a bit odd. It's a bit strange that you've got good speaking and good writing, but such a bad listening and reading. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So obviously I can't, give you like 100% accurate answer because I don't know your specific case. I don't know your level. I don't know how you speak, how you write, etc. But based on what you said, a potential problem that could be happening here, could be going on, is that you speak a lot, but you don't have good, like really good or advanced grammar and vocabulary. And maybe that's what's, causing you the problem with the listening. Because you see, I've seen a lot of examples of people who even went to the UK, I'm talking about people who've been living in the UK for 5 or 6 years now, and they still make mistakes. They make grammar mistakes, they pronounce words wrong, and I know it's like, oh my God, you've been living there for 5 years. You should speak a lot better than any English teacher in the world, but they make mistakes. And this is something that a lot of students confuse, and it's that the fact that you speak fast, okay, speaking fast doesn't mean speaking well. So you can speak fast, like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and to be honest, blah, 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 but perhaps you're not using good grammar, you're not using the B1 grammar, you don't know a lot of structures or vocabulary, and maybe that's when you do the listening, you don't recognize those patterns, those structures, because you don't have the level, the understanding, the knowledge. So I don't know if it's your case, Jose, but just keep that in mind. There are people who are complete chatterboxes, and they can speak forever in English, but they don't speak well. So don't confuse speaking fast or speaking a lot with speaking well. Quality over quantity. So that's something. Then another potential problem that I see in your case is, this has happened to me personally, and in my case, listening has always been the problem. To be honest, listening has always been the hardest thing for me. More than speaking, more than writing, more than reading. Listening has always been my weakness. Obviously, it is a lot less of a problem now, but when I was learning English, it was the most difficult thing by far. And the reason why listening was so difficult is that I lacked, I lacked real world situations. And that's the truth, truth always wins. You need to be completely honest. For example, you can study a lot, you can improve a lot, you can do a course, you can attend a super academy with a textbook and everything, but if you don't have real world practice, if you don't speak to real natives, if you didn't have a phone conversation with a Scottish person or you didn't try to speak to a girl from Liverpool, then your listening and your speaking is not going to be good. And that's a fact. And so in my case, that's what was going on, is that I had a good level, I studied a lot, I analyzed the language a lot, but I didn't have enough real world time with real world native speakers. So that's why my listening was a bit off. And also because of concentration, but that's a that's a different thing. In my case, sometimes I'm very absent-minded, so I need to concentrate a lot to perform well. But yeah, that was my problem. So perhaps this is your problem. If you have bad listening, maybe you haven't spoken to real people enough. So you need to start having real conversations with native speakers, with people from Australia, from Canada, the US, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. But you need that real world learning, because that's the only truth that I can tell you, okay? Especially for listening. I mean, this is what I've seen in my case. The more real world practice that I do, the better my listening gets. So the more different accents, the more different voices I speak to or I listen to, the easier doing a listening becomes for me. Yeah, that's how it works in my case. I'm not saying this is the only truth, but this is what I have experienced, and in a lot of students before who had the same problem as you. Right, Jose? So yeah, that's just keep in mind the Dawei philosophy. You need to give your brain a real reason, a survival reason. Because just think of your brain. Your brain is a very intelligent guy or girl, and it's very economical. So if you don't have a really strong reason to learn English, like real people, your brain is not going to make an effort. Your listening is going to be the same. It's going to remain the same, because it's like, why should I make the effort when I've got so many other important stuff in my life? I need to look after my family. I need to go to work. I need to survive because I have health problems. So why should I spend my energy on improving your listening? So the only way you can tell your brain, dude, we have to do this, you need to improve your listening, is by putting yourself into real situations. Because for your brain, it's going to be a stronger motivation. And then your brain will do whatever it takes to learn, to improve, etc. Okay? So that's the thing. What else? Yeah, that was about the listening, right? Now about the reading, which is your second problem, I wanted to remind you of episode 81 that I recorded. I was answering a question from Sergio. He asked how to improve reading, how to choose the best resources to improve your reading skills, etc. So what you can do, Jose, or anyone listening from Dawi Nation, is to go to Dawi Experience episode 81. It was the previous episode, and I'm just going to link it on the show notes for these episodes, for this podcast, so you can listen to that. And yeah, I spoke about the best resources, how to improve the reading, what the strategy should be like, and everything you need to nail the reading. And yeah, as I said, the same principle applies to listening and reading. For example, to be honest, it's very strange that you've got good writing but bad reading. Because you say, like, to be able to write, you need to know the structures. And if you know the structures and the vocabulary, then you'll be able to recognize them in a text. So I don't know why this is happening, but perhaps the same problem that you had with the listening is happening with the reading. And is that, yeah, you can write a lot, you can be talking forever, but you're not actually consolidating those structures, that B1 grammar, that B1 vocabulary. So maybe you should do a little bit more of a studying. I mean, when I say studying, I always say, you have to speak to real people. You need to live adventures and, have a good time. Yeah, but you need to study at the same time. I can't lie to you. You need to study. And when I say study, I mean actively being aware of your weaknesses, of what you need to improve. It's just self-auditing yourself, like un autodiagnóstico, una auditoría. You need to look at yourself, look at your writing, look at your speaking, and just realize and try to see what grammar you're using, what grammar you're not using, what vocabulary you lack, what vocabulary you know. But you need to pay attention to yourself and to your English level so that you can improve it. And the reading, the problem might be you're not consolidating the grammar and the vocabulary. Maybe you don't really know those words, but in the B1 level, or you can't really use a conditional or should or modal verbs or something. And then when you see everything together in a real text, you are confused. Yeah, if you understood the grammar, if you understood the vocabulary, you would understand the gist of the text. You would get the message. Obviously, something else that you need to keep in mind is that before you take an official exam, you need to be really familiar with the tricks and the type of reading exercises. So for the PET exam, there are certain things that you can do to improve your reading and just to do it faster. But this is the third time that you've tried to take the exam. So you should be familiar with the reading activities. Just practice a lot because it takes time, and this is like driving school. You need to know exactly how the reading works in the exam so you can do it fast. And finally, what I would say to you is that, Jose, sometimes you want to do something, you're aware of the problem, or you understand that you need to do something, but you don't have a system. And you do need a system. You can say, oh yeah, I need to improve my reading. But that's not something you're going to implement. You need to execute. And to execute, you need a system. You need something that you do every day to improve, to get to that point. So if you want to improve your reading, what you need is a specific system, actionable, something that you can do, something very practical, something very specific. So you can say, I'm going to read one book a week, and I'm going to write down the words of that book, and I'm going to try to use those words in real context. Then that's a system. But just wanting to improve your reading is not a goal. It's not something that you're going to execute. So you need to put the goal into practice. And you do that by having a system. And the same for the listening. If you realize by listening to this podcast that you need more real practice, more conversations, then you need a system to have those conversations. So you could say, right, I'm going to use online applications like Tandem or HelloTalk or websites like italki, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to send a message to a native speaker every day or every 2 days. And then I'm going to send another message trying to find a Skype conversation with that native speaker. Then that's a system. That's something that if you repeat it, over time, is going to take you to where you want to be. But you need the system. Because otherwise, this is going to be wishful thinking like, oh yeah, I want to improve my reading. No, you need very specific steps that you're going to take every day to improve that skill. Okay? And yeah, just basically that's the best advice that I can give you. As I said, it's very strange that you've got good writing and speaking but bad listening and reading, because normally they go together. So I can't give you more advice because I don't know exactly what the problem is. I haven't listened to you talking, but I think it has to be one of those two things that I said. Okay, that you're not studying and you just like the fun part of the language, talking and writing without actually paying attention to mistakes, or that you don't have enough real world practice and that's why you have bad listening. And the third thing could be that you're not familiar with the exam, with the format of the exam, and in that case, you need to continue taking exams, practicing, etc. What you can do is you can once you implement these new changes in your learning routine, you can do past papers to try to test if you're doing better. There is a famous line and it says, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Si no lo puedes medir, no lo puedes mejorar. And that's a fact. So it's the same with this, right? If you can't see if you're improving your reading and listening, then you won't know if you made it. So what you have to do, find past papers from other years, buy one of the books by Cambridge University Press, or I don't know, or us in the academy you're going to, and do a lot of exams, but after you have implemented the new system to improve your listening and your reading. And be honest with yourself when you listen to this podcast and when you try to find the solution, right? Yeah, that's it. Finally, something that I could say, I'm always very honest. You can study on your own, you can have a private teacher, you can join an online course, you can do lots of things. I'm not here to tell you what method is best. But if you don't want to have to think, if you want a system that works and that's going to help you in the 4 skills, you can always try my course, that we try. You've got 15 days to try for free, and then you can see, I'm just saying because all the B1 students, who actually go to the exam, they pass the PET exam, and everyone is so happy about their learning, progress, etc. But again, you can do it on your own. You can prepare, design your system, be, constant, persevering, and then just do it by yourself, okay? So you can do it, however you decide to do it. I'm going to support you and I'm going to try to help you. But yeah, that's my answer to Jose from Ceuta, who was asking about how to improve your reading and your listening to pass the PET exam from Cambridge. That was episode 82 of the DAWI Experience. I hope you all, DAWI Nation listening right now, I hope you have an amazing day. Enjoy life because it's very short and it's very beautiful. And yeah, peace. You were listening to the English podcast DAWI Experience. Recuerda, además de todo el contenido gratuito de la web DAWI Inglés, si quieres aprender inglés pero no tienes tiempo, puedes unirte a mi programa exclusivo a distancia DAWI Tribe. Aprenderás a tu ritmo, de forma flexible y con nativos. El enlace es dawitribe.com, dawitribe.com. Enjoy life and be happy.